Hello, good morning, and welcome to BBRC Britain and English. On this rather overcast morning here, after what we had at least 10 days of solid sun until about last Sunday, and then into June it's been quite different. All changed around about the 1st of June. Funny, because that's the meteorological, certainly the time we actually think we're in summer. I know some people say it's the 21st of June. I think that's the actual meteorological way of looking at it, but certainly we usually think we're in summer about June. The weather's usually a bit better, although not always. We do get rain. A lot of people know about the extreme weathers we have here and climate change. But looking forward towards summer, I'd just like to do a little message to say, well, I've had a birthday. You can see I've had my hair cut. Probably any of you budding viewers have perhaps taken notice of detail. I have had my hair cut in the last, week or two. And I've had a birthday. But I won't say too much more about that. Can be embarrassing having birthdays when you get a little bit older, perhaps post-40, because you do realise that things are moving on. You think, well, perhaps you should take a different direction. Friends and family are doing other things. We've got friends perhaps who've got married, moved abroad, even got children. But of course, things are changing so much in this country. They really are changing. The cost of living are having an impact, and people are waiting till a lot later to have children these days. So, and if you are from overseas, perhaps thinking of coming here, perhaps you'll be one of those if you do end up coming here any time, seeing the challenges and the processes and how long things take. Even those who are skilled or qualified for certain jobs, I think it's going to take years. But not that many of you are interested in that. I think there's an obsession that somehow people want to come here, and there are so many roles in other places, and also there's demands in respective countries. For example, it can't be right that certain establishments in this country, e.g. the NHS, have nurses from Cambodia or places where there's a lot of poverty, where they need doctors and nurses. And that's been a political point mentioned over the years. We've certainly got a serious problem with costs. There's less employment at the moment. There's less people getting the jobs. There's a lot of problem for graduates. A lot of problem with 18 to 30s not actually working, not contributing. They can certainly volunteer. They can contribute. Some people blame the cost of rent, housing, flats. There's not enough council supply. Private landlords seem to charge an awful lot of rent. There's all sorts of other factors involved. And people sometimes are reliant on their family till well over 30, even 40 or 50. Certainly it's hard to find a flat, and here it's very, very expensive. You can't really find anywhere less than about probably £600 to £700 a month for a small place. But if you go to London, you probably could double that easily. Certainly costs of rent are astronomical, as my late grandfather would say. And of course, things are not going to get any better. Certainly not with the current government. You may have heard of a lot of political tension at the moment over certain political matters. Certainly policing, certainly DEI policies, which has gone far too far. The pendulum has swung the other way too far, perhaps wrongly. And I think I might have mentioned some time ago about the census not being filled out properly. Well, some people are coming from other countries not filling it out. Some filling it out wrongly. I think the LGBT community were overrepresented was it some time ago? Might have been the last census, because they didn't fill it out properly or tick the wrong boxes. So the Office for National Statistics, ONS, needs to have a serious look at all this, and it is actually illegal not to fill the census out. Now, you might have heard there was a terrible case of Henry Novak, a young gentleman who'd gone out quietly for an evening, very smartly dressed, college student. He ended up coming into an altercation with a Sikh man that carries, certainly for his culture or religion, whatever else it is, which is totally wrong. It should be outlawed, should be sorted out straight away. That's illegal. Nobody else can carry knives, but he was carrying a knife. And he thought, it's a big knife. Hope you're not a bad man or something. A bit of a joke, I suppose, really. And he got stabbed. And that it was turned round that he had been racist. Now, it's terrible. This is in this country now. There's actually, in fact, there was an interview on the radio last night and this is all over American news, Fox News and various other outlets in America, newspapers, but they are reeling out off about, what, 10 or 15 cases where the British police have failed. From the case up in Nottingham, Valdo Calican, in the middle of the night he stabbed some people. He's ended up more or less getting away with it. There's so many cases where these illegal immigrants, certainly, and other criminals, and perhaps those of black and Asian appearance, have more or less got away with it because the police are concerned about racism. Well, how come? How now is it that they're now racist towards the ordinary folk in the street, the ordinary whites? And I know a lot of my foreign friends, black friends, other friends that are perhaps either English, black, or come from different countries to settle here and have integrated, are disgusted by all this. Absolutely disgusted, thinking, well, why are they being treated like, what? You know, they're criminals. Why? Why is this disunity? Why do the police treat them differently? Why are we not treated more equally? I mean, sometimes there are cultural reasons, which the police do take, well, actually, they take too seriously sometimes. It's made up. You know? I mean, I once saw a chap being arrested on the television. And, of course, he didn't know it was being recorded for the television. But they said ethnicity or something. And he said white British. Well, he wasn't. He was probably brown Indian, brown Pakistani. You know, could be white Polish, for all we know. There's so many of these things, you know, and the people lie. Well, what's done about that? Is it infringing on their human rights? It's so wrong. And a lot of people say this is so wrong. It goes back to my grandmother's day. She used to talk about this 20 years ago. And this goes back right back to Macpherson in 1998. And if you go back even further, in 1993, when in London there was a murder of a black teenager on the streets in London, which was very seriously wrong. They caught the culprits, but the problem was, rather than over the years, it was London police who needed to make the changes. It was the investigating and knows what else. But this has all gone over the country, this DEI, and now it discriminates against everybody else. So it's a very serious issue. You'll hear a lot of sordid comments from the left of society. The right are trying to balance it up with what all the people who are affected by all these cases and put into perspective as to how it affects ordinary folk. The left want to accept everything that goes on in every culture and every nationality. We need to get a balance in the middle here. But of course, chances are it won't change, because what will happen is they'll have a big investigation, there'll be a report written out, and then it'll be watered down, typical with Keir Starmer, not a leader, he's a follower, and he's very concerned about votes. Anyway, that's enough of those, the local news, sorry, the national news at the moment, and the politics, the concerns of the country, but certainly it's a big concern in America and probably a lot of other countries as well. The rule of law, what's happening here, and perhaps discrimination, which is perhaps not intended, but it's happening all the time. Certainly, and as you know, just to say as a footnote, as some of the ladies say, well, English people don't want to say, and they don't want to get into arguments, they just want to get on with it, you know, and just go around quietly, most people. But we've got so many communities who are quite loud, and all these cultures to accept, and all these people that they seem to want to change culture. They don't come in to identify with the culture and integrate. They want to change everything, which is another big problem, because you can't have all cultures represented. Even on the report it says they should be treated differently. Why? How can you treat people differently? No wonder there's concern. It's surprising we haven't had any problems before. Why people haven't come out and... Because these people don't come out... When you think about that George Floyd murder in America, nothing to do with us, but look what happened then compared to now. All forced interviews by the media, all over the streets, all over the newspapers, and everything else. But if it's a white English person, oh, it doesn't matter. It's a total disgrace. Well, it does matter, seriously. I would never think that, but that's what some people seem to be implying. Anyway, only in Britain probably. I know other people say they value the country and we need to stick up for ourselves. In fact, they say the same thing to me about sticking up for myself, because we're always, with this equality, going to be around loads and loads of foreign people. And most of them I've got on with lots of people who integrate and make the effort. Lovely people, but there is a few different religions, different cultures, can be rather devious, corrupt, and also they just want to push people out the way, say all sorts of rubbish, lie the way through life. Don't care about anybody else, don't consider anybody else, con their way through, steal off you, do what they can, like they've done before with me, and I have helped people. I think it's the way we should be as Christians, but of course not everybody's Christian, but I mean sometimes, you know, being used and abused does not help your self-confidence, and sometimes we should speak out about these things. So that's about the division and tension at the moment. Sadly, I don't think anything will be done about it. There's a lot of pressure on authorities, as you know. Moving on to what's perhaps happening in the summer. Now, anybody who comes from abroad will know that there's gardens open here for charity normally. There might be the odd air show around. There's a few classic car shows. Anybody interested in that? You ladies might be interested in other things. Certainly you might like gardening, but you might like the National Trust, things like that. But there may be a few other things on. Cultural events. Any of you come here from abroad might have heard of English Heritage, which is buildings which are more or less derelict, but the remains are historically prominent, and they want to keep the building as intact as possible. So they do fund making it as accessible as possible. For example, a derelict castle or something like that. But whereas the National Trust usually got a few gardens, a few houses, and you can even go in the houses. Sometimes they're managed by the National Trust. Sometimes they own a proportion of it. It may have been donated over the years, but they have to upkeep it anyway. And other than that, there will be other things going on. Certainly, country shows that's the sort of thing that goes on. Although they do get quite expensive, and you get boat races and things like that on the rivers. Of course, anybody near a river, and all sorts of things going on really. Certainly, we had horse racing here in the spring. That's a major draw around here. We got regattas. And any of you wanted to find out what's on, you can always look at the local tourist information. Certainly most of it's online these days, going through the summer. But of course you will find more as you, certainly in the big cities, than you perhaps will do in the smaller towns or villages. Any of you from overseas will realise that it's best perhaps to stick in one area rather than trying to go all around the country, as my American friends found out to their peril, trying to get from London to Scotland in about 2 to 3 days. It just doesn't happen. It's just too far. I've mentioned this on a previous video. Stay around London, do a few things, perhaps on the outskirts. You'll need to go to London, Scotland another time, or if you've got 2 weeks, go there on the second week or something, you know. And because people try to do far too much, and it doesn't really work out, especially with busy trains, busy roads, lots of people around. Can't always guarantee on the weather either, as I'm finding out. But it is drying out now. But it's certainly torrential rain yesterday, but it is brightening up here. Certainly, I probably will go to London. And if you've seen any of my other content, will see that I've done a bit of travelling around and a bit of diverse material and filming, which I'm still actually putting together, certain filming and content. So look out for that. Have a lovely week going forward, weekend soon, and I do hope to speak to you again soon with a few culture details. No words today, but I thought I'd give that a rest for now. But I will endeavour to try to put a few perhaps live places of interest on. There'll be some perhaps filming to camera and places on location going forward. Thanks very much now. Have a great weekend.